Very good morning to all the participants from India and abroad. Sobit Institute of Engineering and Technology Meerut, deemed to be university and its centers of excellence, Center for Informatics Development Solutions and Application, and Center for Industry 4.0 Technology Studies and Application, in association with African Asian Rural Development Organization, ORDO, New Delhi, organize this weekly international webinar series on open source digital technologies for self-reliant India, Atmanirbhar Bharat. On behalf of the Honorable Chancellor, His Excellency, the Secretary General ORDO, Honorable Vice Chancellor, and faculty members of the university, and on my behalf, and as Professor Emeritus and Chairman of Centers of Excellence, Center for Agricultural Informatics and E-Governance Research Studies, Center for Agribusiness and Disaster Management Studies, Center for Informatics Development Solutions and Applications, and Center for Industry 4.0 Technology Studies and Application, and Center for Health Informatics and Computing. Let me welcome our guest speaker of today's webinar, 62nd edition of the webinar series on the very important topic, Smart Microeconomic Zone, MEZ, Pathway for Self-Reliance at Village Level. Atmanirbhar Bharat at Village. Shri Atul Bhatnagar. He is the director of SunMoksha Power Private Limited, Bangalore, India. Is the former CEO of NSDC. He left in November 2015 and found his inner calling to become an advisor to startups and non-profit organizations in the field of skill development, education, renewable energy, and fintech. He is currently associated with Pan IIT, Alumni Reach for India, Skilling Blue-Collared Workers, SunMoksha, Empowering Lives, Catalyzing Development in Villages, Sarthak Education Trust, Empowering Differently Abled, Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta Innovation Park, mentoring startups. His corporate career was primarily as a banker with over 2 decades of experience in global banking business. He has worked in 3 major international banks, Citibank in India, and HSBC in Dubai, and Barclays in Kenya. During his stint in Barclays, Kenya, Atul won the Male Diversity Champion Award, picked up among 1,500 nominees from the bank's global pool. He also backed an award for the best COO in Africa. He helped his bank back the best IT bank award given by Business Journal Africa, which also featured him on the cover of their July 2011 issue. Atul Bhatnagar is a mechanical engineer from IIT Kanpur 1985 batch. He did his MBA in marketing and finance from IIM Calcutta 1989. After spending nearly a decade and a half outside India, Atul Bhatnagar found his home calling, where committed himself to a national building. With this, I would like to request Mr. Atul Bhatnagar to address the international webinar series on open source digital technologies for self-reliant India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, on the topic Smart Microeconomic Zones, Pathway for Self-Reliance at Village Level. Over to you, Mr. Atulji. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste to everyone. And this is noon time. And good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, Professor Moni, for having interacted with me on WhatsApp and finding alignment of minds. And I greatly appreciate the work that you are doing with Shobit University to organize this international webinar. And today being the 62nd session, it's a great honor for me to be here. So as Professor Moni mentioned about SunMoksha, SunMoksha is a company where it's been run actually it was founded by my friend and batchmate from IIT Kanpur. We have known each other for more than 40 years, Dr. Ashok Das. And we did our project paper together for our final year project way back in 1985. The reason I'm mentioning this to you, especially for the students in Shobit University, please take your projects very seriously, because it may land up in you collaborating with each other and creating a different society like we have termed up. We went in different ways, but towards the end of our careers, or rather towards the end of our corporate careers, we decided, look, this is time to kind of get together and make a new impact in the society, in the villages. And that's how SunMoksha was really born. And what our aim is, when I talk about catalyzing development, empowering lives, is using technology and making it so simple that the people in the villages can use it. And through my presentation, I will illustrate that. Second, we wanted to make sure that what is it, that one thing that is going to really catalyze development, and that we found was energy. And when I say energy, I mean, if you were to take your own human body, when you get out of bed in the morning, the first thing you require is energy. You cannot even step out and do any of your chores if you don't have energy. Similarly, in the villages, if you can provide this energy, and not energy on a certain basis, 24/7, can we give them 24/7 energy? And after that, we see how the development happens. And this is not a model. We have seen it work. And that's what I'm going to share with you. And energy not only being brought from outside, it's not about electrical energy and other things from outside. We're saying, can we use the village resources itself to make this energy 24/7 consistent and reliable, so that a lot many other things will happen? And that's where the microeconomic zone concept was born. So let me just start with the presentation. I'll load it. So Smart MEZ, pathway for self-reliance at village. Now, there's a story behind it. I mean, it's not done in one shot. There is a pathway, as I've mentioned. And the pathway actually is fulfilling dreams of two great leaders of ours, Mahatma Gandhi, who had talked about Gram Swaraj, and late Mr. Abdul Kalam. He had talked about PURA, PURA, provision of urban amenities in rural areas. So where do we start? Now we start by saying, let's try and increase the farmer's income, double it. In fact, we have seen it go up 5 times and 10 times also. So for that, we have a product called Smart Aquanet that you see on the left-hand side. After having increased the farmer's produce, what do we do with that? We have to kind of make sure that it is stored carefully. Can be used at the right time, because what our farmers are lacking right now is when they come up with their produce, the mandi prices may not suit selling them at that price, and then you hear in the media how tomatoes have been thrown on the streets in a place in Madhya Pradesh because they were going at 60 paisa a kg. Now, what does the farmer do? He can't even take it back because they're going to go waste. So he just threw them aside and went back. And of course, that's where the farmer's distress comes in. So we need to have some storage devices of how do we keep this in controlled environment, for which we need energy. Then comes the smart nanogrid. Even in a village, we need to have electricity not only for home use. Home use is fine, but that's not increasing the economy of that village itself. Because if you provide 24/7 electricity, all that people will do is buy 2 TVs and 2 microwaves and go to sleep. What is important is you should be able to pay for the electricity that you use. So if you're using some LED bulbs and some fans and a mobile charger, there's a certain cost to it. You should be able to afford that. And you have to have an aspiration also. How do I then get more amenities in my house? Then finally, in a cluster of villages, why I didn't say for one village we can make a microeconomic zone, because there might not be economies of scale. So there are economies of scale that you'd like to build up. In a cluster of villages, you can create the microeconomic zone where the produce of each village kind of gets to the microeconomic zone, and there you create more produce, or you create products, you create packages for the main market. And that's where you have a set of other things which I will talk. So this is going to be, let's say, the way I'm going to explain the microeconomic zone. So let's start with the SunMoksha itself, and then why we are taking this route. Now, SunMoksha has invested years on the ground to understand the challenges. And I mentioned my friend Dr. Ashok Das. He himself is a villager. He comes from village Katiyar in Bihar. And from there, he went all the way to IIT Kanpur. He topped IIT Kanpur in the mechanical engineering department. And from there, he went to the US, did his PhD at the University of California. And then he came back and he wanted to do this for the Indian villages. So that's why this technology that we're going to be talking about today is being made by a villager for the village in a village itself. So it is very much what Professor Moni was saying also. Okay, look, it is Atmanirbhar, not only in India, it's Atmanirbhar for the village itself, because this is being done by a person who has lived in the village. At least after doing his PhD and coming back from the US, he stayed for 2 years in the village. And that's when he said, look, the major problem is energy. And let's try and focus on that energy. Now, what is our goal? A goal is to power, and the power within quotes, to empower villages through technology. And this particular farmer that you see on the picture here, he said, Pani hai to kisan hai, bidli hai to rozi hai. That is really a mantra. Water is farmer's life, electricity is the livelihood. So we carry forward the farmer's journey from pre-harvesting to harvesting and post-harvesting. And each step, we've got a product to be able to support that empowerment of a farmer. So what do? We start with the irrigation first, the smart aquanet. Now, what we all know, and you must have heard how the water tables are running dry in India. Lots of water is being wasted. Typically, our agriculture has been supported by flood irrigation. You just open the tap and water flows. Water was being given for free till now. Well, that policy is now debatable. Is that a good idea going forward? Because farmers have typically flooded the water and they've never paid for it. Now, when this acute crisis is facing us in the phase itself, so what do we do now? So that is where we said, let's promote shared irrigation. So let's talk of a set of farmers who come together, and one guy raises his hand. He says, I want to be the aquapreneur. He invests in the pump and this technology called Smart Aquanet. And he says, I will supply water to all the people around you. So it increases entrepreneurship first. Then not only water, you can even provide liquid fertilizer through the same thing. And only the right amount of water at the right time, at the right place will be provided, supported by solar. So it's a green tech. You don't need diesel pumps anymore. You don't have to worry about electricity. And only the right amount of water goes. What that results in is the water under the ground gets conserved. It doesn't get wasted. And we have piped irrigation. So this particular farmer that you're seeing here showing working on a tablet, he is programming that to deliver a certain amount of water at a particular field. And I will show you how it happens. And the app is such that everything is icon based. It's not in terms of which language and 10 languages and 15 languages. It has so many languages. So we have developed this app so that even a farmer, or let's say a person who may not be able to read or write, can work on that app. And I've got a video for that, and I will show you in just a minute, please. Now, we have been implemented in a place called Moriguda in Odisha. And you can see on the right-hand side, between March 2018 to July 2018, the transformation that happened. And the impact was 41 farmers with a 3 HP solar pump. We found 2 to 5x increase in farmers' annual income. Now, how did that happen? When they did not have this technology, and they were going the traditional irrigation route of taking out water and letting it out in the fields, they could only get one crop. So monsoons happen, maybe within 4 to 5 months, they've got the first crop ready and they run dry. And they've got nothing else to do till the next monsoon happens. What we've done here is that only the right amount of water is being produced and given to the farmer. And it's scheduled. It's not like everybody has to have water at 9 o'clock in the morning. No, it goes from, depending on what the arrangement between the farmers is. Somebody says, I want it at 9:30, somebody is at 10 and whatever. Accordingly, that this particular farmer that you're seeing here holding the tablet, he's the one who kind of goes and gives water to every single farmland using a hose pipe. Think in terms of, like, the fire brigade, the big hose pipe, the rollable ones, where he just has to go and stand in the appropriate field number 23. Well, he stands in field number 23, water comes out 10,000 liters. He goes to field number 24, some other amount of predetermined amount of water is given. And this water is also determined by the amount, the kind of soil that is there, the kind of crop to be grown. So only the right amount of water is produced, not random. And the other farmers, they can actually not be there at that place. I mean, they can be doing other things. They can be going into the market and looking at other ways to enhance their income. So that constraint which was there previously, that only when the electricity comes, that's when the pump will start. Maybe the pump might start 3 in the night, and the farmer has to get out of his home and open the pump or close the pipe after the water is delivered. All those constraints have gone away. Why? Because this is based on IoT, and this is can be used to send data to the cloud. You can do analysis, data analytics on how much water for what crop, what kind of output has come, so it improves productivity. So there's a number of different ways by which you can do these things. Now, I will come to the nanogrid a little later. Let me just share a video of a farmer who is operating the system. Now, he's talking in Odia, but you will get the sense what he's doing. And he opens the pump and closes the pump using his mobile phone. So just have a look at this, and we'll come back to the presentation after I have done this.
So here we have Praveen Chaudhary, who is an operator over here, and he deals with whatever the request a farmer gives here. So we will talk with Mr. Pradin about his experience and how he is getting requests from the farmers and how he is dealing with that. So Praveen bhai, ଆପଣଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ କେମିତି ରିକ୍ୱେଷ୍ଟ ଆସୁଛି, କେମିତି ଲୋକ ଫାର୍ମର ଯୋଉ ଚାଷୀ ମାନେ ଅଛନ୍ତି କେମିତି ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଜଣାଉଛନ୍ତି କି ମତେ ଏତିକି ପାଣି ଦରକାର, ଏଇ ଟାଇମ ରେ ଦରକାର, ସେଟା କେମିତି କରୁଛନ୍ତି?
ତ ଏଥିରେ କଣ ହେଇଛି ନା, ଫାର୍ମର ମାନେ ମତେ ସକାଳୁ ମର୍ଣ୍ଣିଂ ରେ ମେସେଜ କରୁଛନ୍ତି
ଆଜ୍ଞା
ଯେ ମୋର ଯାହାର 5,000 ଲିଟର ଦରକାର, ମତେ ହ୍ୱାଟ୍ସଆପ ରେ ମେସେଜ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ଯେ ମୋର 5,000 ଲିଟର ପାଣି ଦରକାର ଜମି ପାଇଁ। ତ ମୁଁ କଣ କରୁଛି ନା, ଆପଣଙ୍କର ଯୋଉ ସଫ୍ଟୱେୟାର ଅଛି ନାନୋ ସଫ୍ଟ ରିପୋର୍ଟ, କ୍ଲିକ କରୁଛି, କ୍ଲିକ କରିକି ଆଇଡି ପାସୱାର୍ଡ ଦଉଛି, ଫାର୍ମର ଯୋଉ ଫାର୍ମର ନାଁ ଲେଖା ହଉଛି, ତାପରେ ତାକୁ 5,000 ଲିଟର ପାଣି ସପ୍ଲାଇ ଦିଆହଉଛି, ତାପରେ ସେ ଅଟୋମେଟିକ ବନ୍ଦ ହେଇଯାଉଛି 5,000 ଲିଟର ପରେ।
ଓକେ, 5,000 ଲିଟର ହେଇଗଲେ ସେ ବନ୍ଦ ହେଇଯାଉଛି।
ତାପରେ ସପୋଜ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କୋଉ ଫାର୍ମର 20,000 ଲିଟର ଦରକାର, ସିଏ ବି ମତେ ମେସେଜ କରୁଛି କି ଭାଇ ମୋର 20,000 ଲିଟର ପାଣି ଦରକାର। ତାପରେ ମୁଁ ତାକୁ କଣ କରୁଛି କି ପୁଣି 20,000 ଲିଟର ପାଣି ରିକ୍ୱେଷ୍ଟ ଦଉଛି ଆପଣଙ୍କ ନାନୋ ସଫ୍ଟ ସଫ୍ଟୱେୟାରରେ। ତାପରେ ସିଏ 20,000 ଲିଟର ପାଣି ନଉଛି, ତାପରେ 20,000 ନେଲା ପରେ ଅଟୋମେଟିକ ସିଷ୍ଟମ ଅଫ୍ ହେଇଯାଉଛି। ତାପରେ ନେକ୍ସଟ ଧର ଆଉ କିଏ ଫାର୍ମର 40,000 ଦରକାର, ସିଏ ବି ମେସେଜ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ମତେ 40,000 ଦରକାର ବୋଲି, ତାପରେ ମୁଁ 40,000 ଇନପୁଟ ଦଉଛି, ତାପରେ 40,000 ସରିଲା ପରେ ଡେଲିଭରି ଅଟୋମେଟିକ ହଉଛି ସିଷ୍ଟମ ଅଫ୍ ହେଇଯାଉଛି।
ତ ସେଇଟା କରିବା ପାଇଁ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଏଠିକି ଆସିବାକୁ ପଡୁଛି ନା ଆପଣ କୋଉଠି ବି କରିପାରୁଛନ୍ତି?
ନା, ଯେକୌଣସି ଜାଗାରେ ଇଣ୍ଟରନେଟ ଆଉ ସ୍ମାର୍ଟଫୋନ ମୋ ପାଖରେ ଅଛି, ସେଠି ନେଟ କନେକ୍ସନ ଅଛି ମୋ ମୋବାଇଲ ସହିତ, ତ ସେଇଠି ମୁଁ ରହିକି କରିପାରୁଛି।
ଓକେ, ତ ସେମ ଜିନିଷର ଟିକେ ଗୋଟେ ଡେମୋଟା ଦେଖେଇବେ କେମିତି ରିକ୍ୱେଷ୍ଟ ଦଉଛନ୍ତି?
ରିକ୍ୱେଷ୍ଟ ମୁଁ ଦଉଛି ଆପଣଙ୍କ ସେଇଠି ନାନୋ ସଫ୍ଟ ବୋଲି ମାରୁଛି, ସେଇଠି ନାନୋ ସଫ୍ଟ ମାରିଲା ପରେ ଆପଣଙ୍କର ନାନୋ ସଫ୍ଟ ରିମୋଟ ପେଜ ଖୋଲୁଛି, ତାପରେ କଣ କରୁଛି ନା ଆଇଡି ମାରୁଛି, ତାପରେ ପାସୱାର୍ଡ ମାରୁଛି, ପାସୱାର୍ଡ ମାରିଲା ପରେ ତାପରେ ସେଇଠି ଆପଣଙ୍କର ଅପସନ ଆସୁଛି ଗୋଟେ ୱାଟର କଣ୍ଟ୍ରୋଲ, ସେଇଠି ଯାଇକି ୱାଟର ସପ୍ଲାଇ ରିକ୍ୱେଷ୍ଟ ତାପରେ କ୍ଲିକ କରୁଛି, କ୍ଲିକ କଲା ପରେ ତାପରେ ସେଠି ଆସି ଯାଉଛି ଯେ ରିକ୍ୱାର୍ଡ ୱାଟର, ସେଇଠି ମୁଁ ମାରୁଛି ଯେ ଫାର୍ମର କୁ ଯେତିକି ଲିଟର ପାଣି ଦରକାର, ମାରିଲି।
रिक्वेस्ट करले अपन हेबे
ଆଜ୍ଞା
तो एठी एटा ऑन हे जावा कथा करेक्ट
ଆଜ୍ଞା
ओके तो एटा आपनकर पानी अपन रिक्वेस्ट देले एटा ऑन हे वाला तापर जेतेले जेतिक रिक्वेस्ट अमाउंट दे चंती हे वाला पर आपे पे बंद हे जियो करेक्ट
ଆଜ୍ଞା
तो एबे आपण केते लीटर रिक्वेस्ट दे चंती
ଏବେ ଜଷ୍ଟ 50 ଲିଟର ଦେଇଛି
ओके तो 150 लीटर हे वाला पर एटा आपे आपे बंद हे जियो आज्ञा ओके 50 लीटर हे गला एटा आपनकर बंद हे गला सिस्टम टा ओके धन्यवाद
Yeah, so what you could make out from here is this particular operator, Pravina Chaudhary, he could deliver, he showed a demonstration of 50 liters being delivered from this particular pump. Now, through this pump, you can attach a pipe and you can reach it across to whichever farmland that you want to get to. So that is the whole purpose of showing this here. And he, in the morning, he gets requests from the various farmers how much liters of water is required there. If it can be predetermined, it can be what they want to get done. Both are possible. And he programs it on his mobile phone and delivers that amount of water. Everything's through Wi-Fi, IoT, and cloud. Now, this farmer needn't be there at this place at all because he's got a mobile phone, he's got a Wi-Fi connection, he can operate the pump from anywhere he is. In fact, some of the larger farmers, this is for a small and marginal farmer. Even the larger farmers and some of the export market farmers, they have in fact got pipes embedded across their entire farmland, across let's say 20 acres or 100 acres. They've got various kinds of vegetables and fruits and maybe flowers also growing, and they want only the exact amount of water to go there because otherwise the crop might get wasted. And they can be anywhere. They can be sitting in the US for that matter. And they can press a button and the water will start flowing into those pipes. The valves are all automated. The valves give feedback to the main controller here. So much water has been given, and after that the valve closes and maybe the water flows into a different pipe. So imagine having an electronic circuit board in front of you, and that is mapped onto a particular field, and accordingly the water and so-called electricity will also flow in the same direction. So we have, in fact, not only done this in India, we've done it in Rwanda, in Africa also, and in Ghana. And you can see on the left-hand side, Kayonza, in Rwanda, people are using this technology. And the beauty of this is when I talked about empowerment, is we have empowered them. We don't have an office in Rwanda to be operating these things. They operate on their own. We've just given the technology, trained them, and off they go. And they've started doing this. So this is happening where they're drawing water from a river and then providing that across to a set of farmers. So it is, again, shared irrigation. That is what the whole purpose is. And later on in Uganda, we are looking at a microeconomic zone, which I'm coming to you soon. Now, let's look at the Smart Gram Yojana. Before that, let me just go to one more place, Smart Nanogrid. And I'll come to the microeconomic zone in 5 minutes. Now, what is a nanogrid and a microgrid? Now, these are small, let's say, grids in a village, maybe less than 100 kilowatts. And the one that I'm going to show you as a video is only 23 kilowatts. And it provides 24/7 reliable, consistent, renewable sources electricity. Now, I'm not saying that if the electricity is coming, then why should we have renewable at the same time? We are looking at hybrid of sources. So maybe the main electricity comes for 6 hours a day, maybe 14 hours a day, but still not 24. So whatever is the gap between 24 to whatever the amount of electricity is there, we fill it up through renewable sources. When I say renewable sources, solar is the most prevalent because that's there. I mean, sun is there for everyone. There's no partial. There's nothing called, is a particular place suited for solar or not. In addition, if let's say the village landscape or the region is on top of a hill and there's good breeze coming in, then we might even use wind energy. If there's a lot of livestock in that village and there's a lot of gobar, etc., you can create, then it can be gobar gas. And if there is a lot of vegetables and waste there, then we can look at biomass. So it can be a combination of this. So we are looking at hybrid sources, like, taking a pot, mixing it up, and trying to provide that 24 hours 7. So rest are all village sources. And in Africa, very frankly, they have created a policy, especially in Uganda, we know of, where they're saying the grid electricity will come up to a certain place. And from there on, it'll be all microgrids. And that will be given to a private operator. They might operate for 25 years. They can decide the tariff and make their money. And at the end of 25 years, we'll again decide what to do next. In India, unfortunately, that policy is not there, because we are very keen on providing electricity from the main grid, and we are hauling electricity from Gujarat and gigawatt farms and taking it all across to Assam and various other places. And there is no metric as to amount of power loss that's happening by taking it. And to the last mile in a village, some of the villages are very remote. And the village that I'm going to show you about, this nano grid right now, is in the middle of Mahanadi River. It's an island. And there was no electricity, imagine, till 2018 at all. And then the first time they got electricity, and you see the impact that happened after that. Once that electricity comes in, we also don't kind of dictate terms from outside. We create a village empowerment committee. It can be the sarpanch and a set of people from there, and the youth, in fact. And now that the electricity reaches there, the youth are feeling very motivated to go back to the village. Why should they come and struggle in a place like Delhi and stay in substandard conditions? When you have electricity back home, lot many other things can happen. It's now, so this particular, I just want to give you another video. SunMoksha team led by Dr. Ashok Das at Khudgaon, inspecting the smart nanogrid before it goes live. So now let's come to the smart nanogrid bit. Now, the problem that we were facing was, look, we can create a nanogrid, but there is an expense to that. There is an expense in all these solar batteries, the solar panels, and the software, the wiring to each particular house, and else is required, where the electricity is there. So there is a capex, and that capex requires patient funding. It's if you go to a VC or any other place, then it's they want returns in 3 to 4 years and multi-x kind of stuff. But here, by the way, capex is fully recoverable, but it might take 8 years. OPEX is fully recoverable because the village empowered committee, they know how much was the expense in a particular month, and accordingly they rate it, and they create a surplus for themselves, because they have to. They might have an AMC with SunMoksha. They may have to preserve some amount of corpus for replacing the batteries after 5-6 years, or maybe some panels might get damaged. They might require changing. So OPEX is fully recoverable, but the capex, it takes time. Now, what do we do in this context? Now, that's when government is the only entity really who can give a capex. Let's say whether it's a scheme or it's a grant or whichever way, or maybe you go and do CSR. And the video that I just showed you for Khudgaon was funded by a CSR from a company called C-Step. And we now looking at more such thing, but we can't scale it up unless the government gets involved. So in Jharkhand, what we did was the chief minister, and it requires convergence, because the other problem that we faced is we have floated this out to many government entities, and they've all praised it. It's like too many pats on the back, but we were not able to make some headway. Why is it so? Because the government is working in silos. So they can't kind of assess this project as, is it rural development, or is it solar energy, or is it agriculture, or is it electrification, or what is it? Correct? So in Jharkhand, the CM kind of provided that convergence point. So here is where it was like local good governance, health, smart agriculture, water sufficiency, energy sufficiency, livelihood, skill development. And Professor Moni also talked about these. This is what will make that village smart, or that will make a cluster of villages smart, in fact. And the CM Smart Government Yojana, they decided 5 pilots will be selected. And these are East Singhbhum, Ranchi, Gumla, Bokaro, Hazaribagh. And the SunMoksha team was invited to do it in Katashola Panchayat. So we said 14 villages will converge to one panchayat, and that's where we create the microeconomic zone. And SunMoksha doesn't have, it's a very lean and thin team. So we have to work with NGOs. And NGOs are the best people because they understand the terrain, they understand the people, they have their trust. It's not about just giving technology to them, everybody will jump at it. No, they are very scared. There's some of them, they have superstitions about putting some black panels in their fields. A lot of education, a lot of persuasion is required, and that's where a local NGO is very important. So SunMoksha likes to work with big NGOs who can have a widespread set of people, and they can educate the villagers there. And not only that, the NGOs can design projects and then approach for CSR or government intervention, whichever way. So let me talk about the Jharkhand CM Yojana here. Now, this is where it was, as I mentioned, Katashol. The 6,060 is the population across 14 villages. Number of households, 1,185. And the literacy rate was only 35%. And we wanted to catalyze the socioeconomic development. We've formed a hub and spoke model. And I'll just give you that. What does hub and spoke mean? So the villages are the spokes, and the centerpiece is the hub. And from the hub, we provided a market linkage. Correct? What does this mean in terms of what do the villages do and what do the hubs do? This is actually the landscape, So there are these villages running where, and in between Katashol is where the MEZ hub is. And so each of the villages are producing their stuff, coming into the MEZ hub and producing something out of it. And what that something is, this was seen as the wasteland that was given by the government to open the MEZ. What does this MEZ now have? So it has the e-governance, drinking water, bank ATM, food processing, training and production, cold room, health clinic. And in the villages, you are doing, like, say, seed and leaf collection. You see on the left-hand side? So you harvest the seed and leaves you carry it forward from the village, bring it to the microeconomic zone, and there you make seed oil. And from the leaves, you convert that. Whole idea is, can I add value to the product that is being made, being harvested in the village, at the village level itself, at the microeconomic zone level itself, and then provide a market linkage. Let's talk of, let's say, everybody talks about Nagpur ka santra and orange berries is one of the most sought after stuff. Maybe the Alfonso mangoes also. If you were to make juice out of them, let's say Nagpur ka santra ka juice, and if it's coming from certain villages in Nagpur, then best is you create the juice there itself. Why carry it forward to some 100 kilometers away from there and mix it with the juice and you get orange juice, or let's say organic orange juice. I want Nagpur ka santra juice, then I want it to be bottled there. How do you bottle it there? You create this microeconomic zone. You bring it here, you have a cold room, you can preserve whatever is not used on a particular day, the next day you can use it. Why do you want to sell milk as milk? Why can't milk be sold as paneer or milk as cheese? And that value add that happens between milk being sold raw and milk being sold as cheese is a huge amount. And that amount of money, rather than go to middlemen and a whole lot of factories in between, it goes to the villages themselves. That's how the economy starts developing. And that's very important. And when you have 24/7 electricity, then you can have your bank ATMs there, you can have drinking water. And lately in COVID situation, we found that it could be a great place to have a small, oxygen concentrator there. Why not? If somebody is seriously ill, why not have an oxygen concentrator? But it requires 24/7 electricity because you cannot afford to switch off oxygen even for a minute. So these are, let's say, the micro enterprises that we chose. So there's pulse and puff machines and tamarind powder. And so the ones in red are in phase 2 and the ones in black are phase 1. And later on, we even said, why not an ambulance fully equipped? That's like phase 3. But these are the things that you can have at a microeconomic zone. Each of them is being supported by the spokes, which are villages. And microeconomic zone is where you have, let's say, the entire industrial center, so-called, supported by 24/7 electricity. And then comes the market linkage bit. Now, again, all of this requires, imagine the amount of employment that's been created. My next slide will show that. The employment that gets created, because there's some people who are now working on getting, whether it's Amazon or you want to go and give it to the local mandi or nearest mandi, it can be anything that you can do from there. Because now you've got the wherewithal to provide the value added produce with quality and with the right technology to any other place outside of that village. So what it did as an impact, we could see nearly 100 micro entrepreneurs were being created, 170 support and logistics people. So there are going to be people who are moving up and down, and from there to the linkage from the village to the microeconomic zone, or microeconomic zone to the main place where the produce is going to be sold. Solar technicians will be created. 600 farmers will start up supplying produce to MEZ. And we can double the number of jobs to nearly 2,000 in 2 to 3 years, and double the income over next 1 to 3 years. So this is the impact anticipated with all this microeconomic zone. And this is only the story of 14 tribal villages and only 6,000 odd population. Imagine the impact that can be created when this goes to scale across many villages or cluster of villages. Because as I mentioned earlier, cluster is required to create that economies of scale, to be able to support all the industries and the micro enterprises that I just mentioned a little while earlier. Now, so what is the theory of change? And we have to also look at supporting the Sustainable Development Goals, SDG 8. Now, SDG 8 is decent work and economic growth. If we focus on that, a lot of other things will fall in place. And here also, I'd like to just load one more video for you, which my friend Ashok Das is, he's doing the talking there, of how this whole thing falls in place. So those who are looking at SDGs and how these interplay between SDGs can come about, this might be a great learning exercise.
I think most of you are aware and familiar with these goals, with the 17 goals, focusing on poverty, hunger, health, education, gender equality, clean water, sanitation, energy, again, work, industry, inequalities. As you can see, all of these are primarily pointing towards, how do we make the world more sustainable and more inclusive. From our perspective, what I believe is the SDG 8 is a key. So if we really focus on 8 and give everybody enough economic growth, decent work, and enough livelihood, they can themselves go and take care of their hunger. The poverty will be eradicated. This is the result of the focus on one goal, that economic empowerment is the key. And of course, as time progresses in the long term, you will achieve the sustainable communities and peace and justice on this earth. If everybody has enough to eat and live and raise families and give everybody good education. If you look around all the fight, it's because of only two things, either need or greed. So I don't know how to take care of the greed, but at least need we can deal and we can take care by working on SDG 8. What is our theory of change is that you focus on 8, outcomes we can achieve through 8, inputs or interventions are our solutions, technology solutions, together with the local partnership. It's not that it's a linear process. You do once and you're done. No, it goes into cycles. It repeats because different kinds of interventions are needed at different level, so that eventually the community goes into the sustainable community, achieving peace and justice. So how can CSR funds help achieve some of this sustained impact? As I said, many times I have seen many CSR activities going and doing a short-term impact. Yes, I have benefited. I saw we gave 10,000 lanterns to the family. We did well. But then that doesn't last long. That lantern is gone in 3 months, 6 months. So how do we go and do things, and then the community, the CSR effort moves away from their village. It goes somewhere else. And then there is nobody to look after them. So our model is that it has to be a long-term commitment, and funds should be utilized to catalyze long-term development, not just a short-term output. Creating livelihood, creating micro entrepreneurship opportunities, engaging the youth, skilling them, and making them micro entrepreneurs. Make sure women are empowered, right? Funds impact should be extended over several years. If I, just one example I give, that if I do, a home lighting system or a solar lantern, I'm an energy guy, that impact is not going to be lasting too long. It just gives them light. But if I give a microgrid, if I give them power, then the whole development process starts, and there is a long-term impact in the village and in the community. And of course, there has to be accountability on the part of the implementing agency, scalability. How can I go into multiple places? And transparency. So transparency is one of the things that was key to our own measures and metrics. That how do I make sure that the funds invested are transparently, monitored, and through that transparency, you bring continuity of engagement. So because continuity of engagement with the beneficiary is equally important. If you just lose the continuity, your efforts and your funds and your CSR activity that you did are negated again. And for that transparency and continuity is where we bring technology so that there is a local support. We are talking technology such that the people in the village can use it. There is a remote command center where we can support, we can look at the solutions, we can look at the problems and address and provide the ongoing support to the villagers or to the project, and bring the customer, make it easy for the customers to interact with our systems. And this data is available to everybody, the CSR folks, all the stakeholders can look at the data and make sure that, yes, what we promised is what we have delivered.
Well, that brings me to the end of the presentation. I'm open to questions and welcome any thoughts on what we have presented today and how it can benefit you, or if you have any clarifications to seek, please, you're welcome.
This very nice presentation, very innovative and also provocative, that when such type of development models have proved right, giving objective of grassroots level up to the sustainable development goal, meeting the objective, and the forthright view, which is based on a lot of study and operational models and so on and so forth. And this model is an operational model which is available. And why can't we replicate it? Do you mean to say that this is not known to the district administration, is not known to the Niti Aayog, is not known to the concerned departments of the central government? But somewhere there is some, it is something like a shadow which is shadowing all grassroots level experiments in the country. And that's the reason only a person like me, I thought that COVID situation has come as a something like a panacea for a person like me, that use this internet and bring out people like you to speak and show that it is made available to the people, whether they like, and it will force them to know that what is really happening. And you talked about the island, which I have been also seeing from 1987. It took SunMoksha for so many decades to get into this island in Mahanadi and to provide light to the kids there to study. And why? And it means that there is no responsible auditing of what is really going of the fund, which is taxpayers' money, which goes into the district. So district has to have an enterprise business model. And it is not that the people have been trained, bureaucrats are being trained and they have been sent under various plans abroad and to have their post graduations and so on and so forth. But at the district level, what is the enterprise business model which we have operationalized it? It is not based on every annual plan. And it cannot be like a sunrise and sunset. We start working by sunrise and forget about sunset. And it has to be an enterprise business model of the district, which you have shown that every village has to become a micro economic zone. And I felt very happy and I was really moved when Dr. Das said about that. You concentrate that the sustainable development goal, that is that the 8, and many of the outcomes are it's a sustained economic growth. You take care of it whichever territory which you talk about it, and give a 24 oblique sustainable model. Things will happen. There will not be any brain drain. People will not migrate. And that is an important thing. And I felt very happy that in the finance minister's speech, now we are going to work for 25 years. India at 75 to India at 100. But the problem is that will these 6,500 block level offices, rural development offices, 6,500 block level agriculture offices, 6,500 district fisheries offices, 6,500 district animal husbandry offices, 6,500 education department block working in the block, and so on and so forth. Those who are supposed to make impact at the social level, social impact. And they don't even talk to each other. That is a problem, that the time has come that you may do any schemes, but you have to work with a common database, that is a village level database. What is available there, what is available at the below the level, below the ground, above the ground, on the ground, in the villages. So that way, this model is a very important thing. The title which you put it is a smart microeconomic zone pathway for self-reliance at village level, Atmanirbhar village. You also quoted, Swaraj model and Acharya Vinoba Bhave, Mahatma Gandhi, Abdul Kalam, smart, PURA village. And, it cannot be stopped with the pilot models. It is the responsibility of the district administration to make that pilot successful models as an operational model and make it into 24/7 into 365 days. This is, their job is not only stopping with the the subsidies. They have to work on outcome and output. So I think this is the message which it has been, you talked about very effectively. And you also started with the first talk that all the students working in colleges, higher education institution, whether it is engineering college or non-engineering college, they have to work in villages to understand. They should become, when they come out of the college, they have to become an entrepreneur. They should have that type of capability, capacity, competency, that we can't generate students from the higher education institution to become a clerk in government. They have to be an entrepreneur. To become a clerk in government, you need only plus 10th standard. You don't need +2. You don't need BA degrees and so on and so forth. So they should be made as an entrepreneur, so that natural resource which are available in India can be utilized properly. And rural management is very important, which can give $1.8 trillion. Why can't we use it? And this is an indication which both Mr. Atul Bhatnagar and the CEO of the company, Dr. Ashok Das, very nicely put it through the two videos and also example. And it is a standing example, and which is available on the grassroots, at the grassroots level, very important remote places. And it is a well thought about presentation. I felt moved when I said it, that I started my district level informatics program way back in 87, 28 sectoral programs and 12 plus 1 village level 1, and the 95 in blueprint for IT in agriculture. And then in 2013 as an agricultural informatics as a discipline, 5 centers of excellence on smart village program and smart island program, approved by the planning commission in 2002. And India is a land of opportunities, and it has to be exploited. It has to be understood. And our boys and girls from the rural area, and they need not move to the urban areas. You said it very clearly that they can be an entrepreneur. They can earn a lot of wealth by appropriately becoming a micro entrepreneur in the village level. So Mr. Atul Bhatnagar, it's very nice. This 1.5 hours talk which you have given, and the talk by Dr. Ashok Das, it's very it's galvanizing. It is motivating people. That's why I said it, that your talk should make the entrepreneur in the engineering graduates, non-engineering graduates who come out from the university, or the people who moved from urban area to village during the COVID situation pandemic, should be in a position to see this video and get motivated and become either startup or NGO, to become a micro entrepreneur. And we would like to work with you and see that how in every state this can be propagated. And we would like to undertake capacity building and competency development of various rural youths on your project, which you have done it in close collaboration with your NGO with, especially in particular with you, because you are a man who have worked both abroad and in India, and also, skill development. Skill development is in your DNA. So, and I'm very happy that even though we might have met in various meetings when I was in service and after service, but today is the important day that we met, and we were able to participate. We were able to involve interact for about 1.5 hours in this very important program, Smart Microeconomic Zone Pathway for Self-Reliance at Village Level. We are very much satisfied, and I'm also very happy that your talk is now it will be visible to the 31 member countries of the ordo. And I would like to read it out. Yesterday, His Excellency the Secretary General of the ordo has sent a letter to the Honorable Chancellor of Soviet University about this conference, about this webinar. Letter of appreciation for organizing international webinar series on open source digital technology towards self-reliant India. Because since February 2021, they have joined, with this webinar series, even though it started on 18th August 2020. And he said that would like to solemnly thank your good self, your esteemed university, and all learned faculty members for organizing this laudable and impeccably planned international webinar series on open source digital technologies towards self-reliant India. Ordo and all its 31 member countries are proud to be associated and to benefit from these knowledge and technology dissemination ventures. We place on record the impressive number of such international webinars, which has so far reached a total number of 45 on diversified theme, having widespread ramifications on rural development and rural communities in Africa and Asia. The themes of this webinar cautiously selected highlight inter alia the role of technologies, more specifically digital technologies, low-cost innovative technologies, health informatics, e-governance models, issues related to agriculture and farmers, the role of ICT in development, startup policies, and smart villages. Participants from ordo member countries and other economies have enriched their knowledge and would certainly look into possibilities of implementing selected ideas and technologies exposed to them. Even though some of the webinars are India-centric, they still have wider implication at the policy and planning level in all the developing countries of the world. Ordo is equally thankful to the stalwart speakers of the webinar for their meticulous and meaningful presentation. And you did it today. And we are similarly thankful to the concerned authorities of the university, and particularly to Professor Moni Maraswamy, Professor Emeritus, and Chairman Chitsa and Chitsa for bringing such a galaxy of scholars on platform for lively session and for successfully coordinating the programs. During these hours of crisis, when the entire world is under the cloud of COVID-19 situation, organizing this series of webinars and addressing cross-cutting issues of development is undoubtedly a highly welcoming step on your part towards achieving the strategic development goals of the UN. And you also very nicely integrated, and this is the word coming from the Secretary General of ORDO. And we are appreciating the initiatives of the university. We look forward to more collaboration in areas of mutual benefits in the near future. Kindly accept ORDO's and my gratefulness, as well as assurance of highest consideration for any other joint initiatives. Thanks and regards, Dr. Manoj Nardev Singh, Secretary General, ORDO. So I think it is a more appropriate and today's talk, which is given it, even though the letter we have received from him 11th February 2022 dated, but your talk has fulfilled his ambition that this will facilitate in implementing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. With this, I would like to thank you from my heart, and also from the university, from the Honorable Chancellor of the university and Honorable Vice Chancellor and His Excellency Secretary General ORDO, and also the faculty members of the university. And with this, we would like to close the webinar and leave the studio. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Professor Moni.
Thank you. Thank you.